Welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Alicia Menendez. We're joined today by Craig Floyd, the chairman and CEO of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Tell me a little bit about the Memorial Fund.
Well, we started in 1984, and at that time we had a single mission: to build the first ever National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial here in our nation's capital. And there have been nearly 19,000 law enforcement officers throughout our history who've made the ultimate sacrifice. They'd never been properly honored. So our job was to build that memorial, and I'm pleased to say that it was dedicated in 1991, nearly 20 years ago. And it sits right down the street from where we are today in a place called Judiciary Square. It's a beautiful public park space, and you're embraced by these two 300-foot-long marble walls with the names inscribed on those walls, the names of the men and women who've died in the performance of law enforcement.
And what does it mean to those people's families to have this type of memorial?
I think it's a very comforting feeling to come to Washington, our nation's capital, among all the other major landmarks and memorials here in Washington, D.C., and to see your loved one's name inscribed on one of those monuments. To know that your nation has not forgotten you, that your loved one's death was not in vain, that they continue to be talked about, their stories told, inspiring stories, really. I like to think that when those of us who visit that memorial see these names on the wall, line after line after line, we want to do more with our own lives, because we realize these men and women died for us, and we owe it to them to do the most we can with what we've been left with.
Certainly inspirational. Now, in addition to this Memorial Fund, you follow the trends in terms of watching people who are dying in service. And so this year, or this past year, 2009, was actually a good year in some ways.
Good year, relatively speaking.
Right.
116 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers were killed last year. But the good news in that number, it's the lowest figure since 1959, 50 years ago. You have to go back to before you found a year with fewer law enforcement fatalities. I think that the important part of that message is we are doing some things right in terms of making it safer for our officers. Better training, better equipment. We're giving all of our officers bullet-resistant vests. Those vests have been documented to have saved more than 3,000 police lives. Some of those in shootings, but also in car wrecks and a lot of other ways that these vests can save lives. Stun guns, taser stun guns, for example, less lethal weaponry that gives officers more choices than simply kill or be killed in very dangerous situations. All of that has helped to make a difference. And frankly, we're getting tougher with our criminal justice. We're keeping the repeat violent offenders, the ones who cause the most harm to citizens as well as police, behind bars for longer periods of time.
And National Police Week is coming up. Let's take a look at those dates. It's very soon. Go ahead. May
9th through the 15th. It's always the week that includes May 15th, which is Peace Officers Memorial Day. This is a special week set aside to honor all of America's law enforcement officers. There's some 900,000 officers across this country who go out each and every day, putting their lives at risk for our safety, our protection. So this is the week where we pause to honor them with ceremonies and activities here in our nation's capital and around the country.
And very quickly, tell me about this new museum.
We are building the first ever National Law Enforcement Museum. It'll be built right across the street from our memorial. And when it opens its doors in 2013, we'll tell the story of American law enforcement for the first time ever. And we're going to be breaking ground on October 14th of this year.
In 2013, what can people expect to see at this museum?
Well, it's a high-tech interactive museum, state-of-the-art, world-class. We're going to have a shoot, don't shoot judgmental simulator where you get to walk in the shoes of an officer and learn the split-second decision-making that's required. We'll have a forensic science lab where visitors will learn how forensic science is used to help solve crimes. Motorola is sponsoring a Dial 911 emergency call center so we understand better how emergency call systems work in this country.
That sounds very exciting, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
To find out what Comcast is doing on your community, click on On Demand, Get Local. For Comcast Newsmakers, I'm Alicia Menendez.